In the last video of this series, we talked about why the value of paper currencies are always falling. We mentioned how this is only possible because paper money on their own have no value. The only value they possess is derived from the things the economy of that currency is able to offer. We also mentioned that the estimation of this value is carried out on the free market. So in short, the value of any paper currency is decided by its demand and supply on the free market. It goes without saying that if the value of a currency such as the Naira fall or increase, there has been a shift in its rate of demand or supply on the free market. Good. Now the next step we said was to figure out exactly how to influence this demand and supply to increase and stabilize the value of the Naira. And to do this, we have to first understand the actual factors that affect the demand and supply, and consequently, the value of the Naira on the free market. It is only after we understand these factors that we can get to work on influencing them and doing our best to make them favorable to our condition. The value of the Naira, like the value of any paper currency, is affected to some extent by a lot of different factors. In Nigeria, we like to believe that the value of our currency is dictated only by external forces in the foreign exchange market. While this is true to an extent, thanks to our dependence on only one product as a source of our foreign exchange earnings, this isn't usually true for all currencies at all times. The prevailing factors affecting the price of a currency usually differs from one country to another based on the realities and peculiarities of that economy. For instance, the Chinese government is able to control and artificially lower the value of their currencies simply because it is advantageous to them to maintain a weak currency, and they have the power and resources to buy other currencies so that the other currencies look strong and theirs appear weak. Nigeria has no such power. Our economic and foreign exchange realities are much different. So what are the general factors that affect the value of any currency? Well, generally, we like to divide these factors into two. The internal factors that are usually in the control of government and central banks, and external factors that are beyond anyone's control. Governments and central banks all around the world employ certain macroeconomic policies to determine how much currency is in circulation. This is known as the monetary policy of that country. One of these is the actual printing of money. Printing of money is important because the volume of currency in circulation goes a long way in determining the value of that currency. The underlying principle behind this remains the same. The more of a paper currency in circulation, the lesser its value. If there are more paper currency in circulation, then the value of what can be bought with it. All this does is drive up prices and make the currency more useless by the second. This is why central banks are always meticulous about the volume of currencies they print and the amount they allow into circulation. Apart from reducing or increasing the actual rate at which their paper currencies are being printed, central banks can also influence the amount of money in circulation through the lowering or increasing of interest rates and lowering or increasing of the reserve requirement for central banks. The general consensus is that increasing interest rates attract foreign investment, which improves the local currency's value. Of course, high interest rates also tend to lead to more money in circulation and consequently inflation. The challenge is keeping inflation in check even while the interest rates are high. This is the goal for most economists. The same goes for reserve requirements for commercial banks. Lowering the amount of money commercial banks have to hold in reserve makes them have more money available for lending. And the more money they have available for lending, the more money people can borrow, which increases the amount of money in circulation, which may lead to inflation rising higher and higher, and ultimately a reduction in the value of the currency, and vice versa. Ultimately, though, while all of these factors are important in determining the value of a currency, they are usually not as important as the external ones. Most people believe that the two most important factors affecting the value of a currency are the balance of trade and economic health. The reason for this is quite clear and straightforward. Remember, the ultimate decider of the value of a currency in the free market is the amount of demand of that currency in the free market. So if a whole lot of people want your currency on the market and there are more people willing to buy than are willing to sell, then your currency will have significant value. So what makes people want your currency on the market? How much your economy has to offer, of course. That is, what are the things you produce that make people want to buy your currency so as to get those things? Balance of trade refers to achieving balance between what your economy has to offer, that is, what other countries have to get from you, and what you have to get from other countries. A strong currency is usually tied to an economy that has more to offer than what it has to get elsewhere. Economic health is another factor affecting the value of a currency. This is a measure of how a currency is doing in terms of key economic measures such as unemployment rate, ease of doing business, GDP per capita, and so on. We refer to balance of trade and economic health as external factors because unlike currency printing and interest rates, a government or central bank can't just wake up one day and flip a switch to set or reset these numbers. To influence these factors, you usually have to go through a great deal of ingenuity, and even then, you need other things working in your favor. So we've seen the general internal and external factors affecting the value of any currency. Now, what exactly are the peculiar factors that affect the value of our own beloved Naira? Well, the Naira suffers from monetary policy changes just like any other currency. But the most significant cause of inflation for the Naira through the years have been imbalance of trade and economic instability. So, remember how we mentioned that balance of trade is one of the most important factors that determine the value of a currency, and that the most optimal situation is for an economy to produce enough so that its imports will be able to stand up to its exports. Now ask yourself, what exactly is the biggest source of Nigeria's export revenue? You guessed it, oil. In fact, the oil and gas sector makes up for a whopping 86 to 90% of Nigeria's export earning. And as we discussed extensively in our video about the oil industry, this isn't exactly a good thing. Not only is the price of oil incredibly unstable, it is also inadvisable for a country to be so dependent on just one product for its export revenue. And this is without even debating the sustainability of oil and imminence of peak oil. This is why whenever there is a significant drop in oil demand for whatever reason, the Naira and the entire Nigerian economy suffer. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, did its fair share of damage on the Naira and saw another major devaluation of our currency. Remember how we mentioned that a healthy economy with high employment rate, great ease of doing business, and all other metrics that makes a healthy country will generally have a stronger currency than an unhealthy one with unimpressive scores in these metrics? Well, our beloved Nigeria falls more to the latter than the former. Our economy is seriously ill. Unemployment rate is ridiculously high, and basic amenities such as electricity and strong internet are lacking. All of this serves as a serious deterrent to foreign investment, and instead act as the perfect recipe for a weak, unstable currency, just like the Naira is at the moment. Of course, the paradox of economic health is that it is at once a cause and an effect. The sinister consequence of an unhealthy economy is that it leads to other terrible social conditions, along with suboptimal economic and political consequences, like a weak, unstable currency, for example, which leads to an even worse economic health, which leads to more suboptimal conditions, and so on in that vicious order. Now that we know the factors that affect the value of a currency, we are better placed to influence these factors to achieve a favorable outcome, which is strength and stability. How exactly do we increase the strength of the Naira and make it stable? Well, first of all, at the most basic level, we have to get the internal factors that are in our control right. It is up to the central bank to implement sound and accurate monetary policies to this effect. As for the import and export balance, for a country like Nigeria, you think the solution will be to either seriously jack up production on monumental levels, which is great and a lot easier said than done, or stop the people from buying foreign goods, which is terrible and not as sensible as it may seem. At any rate, the government and the central bank have been experimenting with solutions to solve the currency and economic problems for a long while now. So before you begin to formulate your own solutions, it is wise to first examine the specific steps the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria have taken and continue to take to increase and stabilize the value of the Naira. That is why in our next video, we will be analyzing in depth what they got wrong with these policies, what they got right, and how to improve upon them. We will also be taking a look at terms such as devaluation, parallel market, regulated exchange, and many other key factors that will help in our quest for a permanent, effective solution to the quandary. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss it.